Laird was domiciled, and she did have a residence, a fixed place of residence at 6630 FM 1663 in Winnie, Chambers County, Texas, 77665 at the time of her passing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it is also your testimony that, best of your knowledge, this court has jurisdiction and venue of Mary Patricia Laird's estate.
Yes.
Right. And to the best of your knowledge, my office has issued citation. Citation has been served upon those required and returned in the manner and for the length of the time required by the Texas Probate Code. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, right. Now, your deceased wife owned property described, and generally it's real estate. We're talking about cash, personal effects, household goods of a probable value in excess of over $75,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there aren't any debts owed by the estate, your deceased wife, that aren't secured by liens, and so there is a necessity for the administration of this estate. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, your wife did not have a will, so she passed intestate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hold on a second. Let me move this out of the way here. All right. And to the best of your knowledge, the application contains all the material facts and circumstances within your knowledge and information. Is that true?
Yes.
And it says here the applicant. If I say applicant, I'm referring to you, the applicant. Okay. And you're requesting that the requirement of a bond be waived.
Yes.
Okay. Again, you are the spouse of the decedent, and you are entitled to letters of testamentary of temporary administration, rather, and you are not disqualified, are you, by law from serving as temporary administrator? Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, your deceased wife was previously married to Harold McCall. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she was divorced from Harold McCall on May 16th, 1990. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And of that marriage, there were two children. There was a Patty Jean McCall Warner, date of birth June 13, 1977. And of course, that was Harold McCall was the father, to the best of your knowledge. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then there was a son, and I'm sorry, Patty Jean McCall. It lives in Dayton now, and date of birth on her was June 13th, 1977. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, get my notes straight here. And then Brandon Cash McCall was her son, born on October 26, 1978. And of course, the name of the other parent was Harold McCall, her ex-husband. Is that correct?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, he still lives on 1072 County Road 450 in Dayton, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So the names and the ages, the marital status and address of each of your deceased wife and the relationship are listed as followed, and we'll just go over them because it's a little repetitive. You, of course, and you are 71 years old, Curtis Ray Laird, and you currently live at P.O. Box 393, Hancomer, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your relationship, of course, would be spouse. And then there's Patty Jean McCall Warner, who we just mentioned. Is that correct?
Yes.
Best of your knowledge, well, it should be in the court's file. She signed the distributee's consent to application for independent administration. She also signed a waiver of notice, which is filed with the court and should be in the court's papers. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she also, excuse me, signed a disclaimer disclaiming any interest in any of the property she might be entitled to receive through the estate of your deceased wife, Mary Patricia Laird. Is that true?
Yes.
And that is filed with the court as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and she also signed a waiver of service, which is filed with the court as well, best of your knowledge, correct?
Yes.
And then her son, Brandon Cash McCall, who we just mentioned, he also signed the distributee's consent to application for independent administration and waiver of notice, which is also filed with the court again, correct?
Yes.
And he signed a disclaimer disclaiming any interest in any property that might be and he might be entitled to the estate of your deceased wife. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that is also filed with the court.
Yes.
Uh, and he also signed a waiver of service, which is also filed with the court.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Harold McCall, your deceased wife's ex-husband, and Pam McCall have both signed an affidavit. Both signed an affidavit of heirship, and they're both personally familiar with your family, marital history, and the facts of your ex-wife's passing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Harold McCall again was married. I don't think I mentioned this before, to your deceased wife from May 12th, 1972 until May 16th, 1990. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were for over 50 years and is the father of the children we just mentioned, Pam McCall and her son Brandon. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're telling the court that administration is necessary, specifically, not only did your wife die intestate, but it's necessary under the probate code. And again, we've included the all of the heirs and any children of your deceased wife. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your wife did not have any more children, and or she was not predeceased by any child either. Is that correct?
Correct.
So there's no state government agency of this state, charitable organization that's named by the will as a devotee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, since your deceased wife did not leave a will, that requires the necessity of the administration of the estate, and all of the distributees that we just named agree on the advisability of having an independent administration, and also agree that you should be appointed as the independent administrator. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so therefore the distributees we just mentioned request that no action shall be had in the county court in relation to the settlement of your deceased wife's estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, other than the return of an inventory, appraisement, and a list of claims. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And again, you were not disqualified from serving as administrator and from accepting letters testamentary. Is that correct? I'm sorry, letters of administration. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think I've already stated this, but you, Patty Jean McCall Warner, daughter, and Brandon Cash McCall, son of your deceased wife, are the distributees of this estate and are the only persons required to receive notice under section 401.004 of the Texas Probate Code. As far as you know, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Curtis Ray Laird, Patty Jean McCall Warner, and Brandon Cash McCall, you being, of course, Curtis Ray Laird, each filed a distributee's consent to application for independent administration and waiver of notice. Is that correct?
Yes.
And today you are testifying pursuant to 401.003 of the Texas Estates Code that it is advisable and the best interest of your deceased wife's estate and of the heirs and distributees of the decedent's estate that your application be granted by this court. Is that correct?
Yes.
So pursuant to section 401.005 of the Texas Estates Code, you're requesting that that the requirement of the bond be waived, and there's been no objection filed to that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, we requesting the application for independent administration and the judgment declaring heirship be granted, and that letters of administration be issued, and that the court judge that it is advisable in the best interest of the decedent's estate for Curtis Ray Laird to be appointed to serve as administrator under the provisions of section of 401.003 of the Texas Estates Code, and that the letters of administration be issued to Curtis Ray Laird, and bond be waived, and that no action be had in this court in relation to the settlement of the estate of Mary Patricia Laird, other than the return of the inventory, appraisement, and list of claims of the estate. And that is all we have at this point, Judge.
I thank you, Counselor. Ms. Price.
Thank you, Judge. I only have one question of Mr. Laird, and then I'll make my report, Judge, if that's okay.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Laird, your wife never took any other children into the home, even with you or her other spouse, other than the 2 children she had with Mr. McCall. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Judge, I do agree with Mr. Leak that I received a waiver of service by both the children from the prior marriage and the disclaimer by all 3. Also, the disclaimer for them as heirs in favor of Mr. Laird. So as Mr. Leak has pointed out, Mr. Laird will be that heir, and because they have disclaimed their property under the Estates Code. I have been paid, Your Honor, and I believe that concludes for us on this.
Okay, I'm gonna approve the judgment declaring heirship that was presented, and also the order granting independent administration and authorizing letters of administration.
I will make one other point, Judge. I did talk to
Yes,
both
ma'am.
witnesses,
Yes.
Harold McCall and Pam McCall, and they confirmed their affidavits that are on file with the court.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Thank you.
That is
I've known these folks a long time. I grew up with Patty, actually. Patty
Yeah.
Cash. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Judge.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Judge.
Are we
Thank you,
excused?
Judge. Thank you,
We're
everybody.
excused. Court's adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Hey,
Let-
Letitia's just called.
Hold on. Let me sign out of this meeting.